When a woman takes you for granted, what she's really thinking. Let me share a truth that might shock you, especially if you've ever felt invisible in a relationship. A woman can love you, and still take you for granted. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's subtle, almost unconscious, a dynamic that plays out quietly in the background until one day you feel like you've been reduced to a convenience, a steady presence she assumes will never leave. The most painful part is this: many women don't realize they're doing it until it's too late. Until you stop chasing. Until your silence replaces your consistency. That's when the shift happens. That's when the absence becomes louder than words. That's when she realizes that the man she dismissed as always there might not be there anymore. This is not about blaming women, nor is it an invitation for bitterness. Instead, it's an honest look into the psychology of relationships, told from a woman's perspective. So you can finally understand what really happens when she takes you for granted, and then starts to miss you. The shift begins when you stop reaching out. If you're wondering when a woman starts to miss you, it's not during an argument, and it's not when she's giving you the cold shoulder. It's when your name stops appearing on her phone. You stop sending "good morning" texts. You stop checking in just to see how her day is going. You stop filling the silence with attention, reassurance, and effort. At first, she brushes it off. Maybe she even convinces herself she likes the space. But then something happens, a quiet panic sets in. Most women are used to being pursued. We're conditioned to expect consistency from a man who's interested, to believe that if he cares, he'll keep showing up no matter how we treat him. We learn, sometimes without realizing it, that even if we act distant, he'll still be there. This dynamic gives us a false sense of control. But when you stop, when you break the pattern, that control crumbles. The first thought is confusion: why hasn't he messaged me today? The second thought is anxiety: did I push him too far? Is he losing interest? Did someone else take my place? Before long, she's refreshing your stories, watching your activity, and checking her phone more often than she admits. The very man she thought she could ignore has suddenly become the one person she's desperate to hear from. We remember the little things we didn't appreciate. Here's something most men don't realize: when a woman starts missing you, it's not usually for the big things. It's not the expensive dinners, the trips, or the fancy gifts. It's the small, consistent acts of care. We remember the way you always noticed when we were tired, even when we denied it. The way you brought our favorite snack without being asked. The way you made us feel safe, understood, chosen. At the time, we brushed these things off. We grew entitled to them. We assumed it was just who you were, the man who always showed up. And in that entitlement, we forgot how rare that kind of steady, selfless love actually is. When you're gone, those little moments echo. They replay when we meet other men who lack that depth, who don't pay attention, who make us feel like just another option. Suddenly, the things we dismissed as normal become the very things we crave. And here's the cruel truth: we don't realize how much those small gestures mattered until they're gone, until you're gone. We battle our ego while our emotion spirals. Now, let me be brutally honest. Even when we start to miss you, we don't always admit it, not to you, and not even to ourselves. Instead, we hide behind our ego. We post "living my best life" stories. We talk to new people. We pretend your absence doesn't sting. This isn't strength, it's defense. A desperate attempt to protect ourselves from the reality that we might have lost someone rare. Inside, though, the spiral begins. We replay conversations. We ask ourselves if we confused your kindness for weakness. We wonder if we pushed too far, or if we took advantage of your patience one too many times. The ego resists admitting fault. But emotion doesn't play fair. Emotion shows up late at night, when the distractions fade. It shows up when we see someone who reminds us of you. It shows up when we try to connect with someone new and feel nothing close to the depth we once had. That's when cracks form in the facade. That's when the regret creeps in. That's when the thought turns from, "He'll be back," to, "What if he never comes back?" When you glow without us, it hits differently. Here's the hardest pill for a woman who took you for granted: the day she sees you thriving without her. At first, your silence makes her uneasy. But when she sees you living, smiling, traveling, working on yourself, leveling up, something shifts inside her. Because it's no longer just about missing your presence. Now, it's about realizing she no longer holds the same power over you. When you glow without us, when you move forward with quiet confidence and without bitterness, we feel something we never expected: replaced. Not necessarily by another woman, but by your own life, your own growth, your own self-respect. And that cuts deeper than any argument ever could. The power of your silence. Silence is not just the absence of words. For a woman who once had your full attention, it is a mirror. It forces us to face ourselves. It forces us to sit in discomfort. It forces us to realize that you're no longer seeking our validation. When we don't hear from you, we don't feel empowered. We feel irrelevant. And for a woman who once assumed she was the center of your world, that realization is devastating. Your value is not up for negotiation. Here's the truth every man needs to hear: if you allow a woman to take you for granted, you're silently teaching her that you're replaceable. Not because you are, but because you've conditioned her to believe your love comes without boundaries. When you're always available, always forgiving, and always proving yourself, she stops respecting you. Not because she doesn't care, but because she doesn't have to earn it. Women, like men, respect what requires effort. And if she doesn't have to invest, she won't appreciate it. The solution isn't anger. It isn't playing games. It isn't revenge. It's standards. You change the dynamic not by chasing harder, but by holding yourself to a higher level. By refusing to give your energy freely where it isn't valued. By living like a man who already knows his worth, with or without her recognition. And here's the irony: that's the moment she starts to remember you. That's the moment she realizes what she lost. That's the moment regret replaces indifference. Because the man who no longer chases, who no longer needs, who no longer negotiates his value, that is the man she misses. That is the man she can't forget. Final word: if you've ever been taken for granted, remember this: your worth doesn't decrease just because someone failed to see it. The silence you give, the space you hold, and the life you build without her, that is your power. Never beg to be valued. Let your absence teach the lesson your presence couldn't. If you have ever felt taken for granted in a relationship, remember this fundamental truth: your worth doesn't decrease just because someone failed to see it. The pain of feeling overlooked, unappreciated, or like a placeholder is real, but it is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of a dynamic that has become imbalanced. The path forward is not to beg for her attention or to demand to be valued. Your power lies in the silence you give, the space you hold, and the life you build without her. This is a lesson in self-respect, not a tactic for manipulation. Never beg to be valued. Instead, let your absence teach the lesson that your presence couldn't. The uncomfortable truth of being taken for granted. The feeling of being taken for granted is insidious because it doesn't arrive with a bang, it creeps in quietly, little by little, until you feel like an afterthought. You are the one who consistently initiates contact, plans dates, and offers support, only to have your efforts met with a lack of reciprocity. She assumes you will always be there, so she stops putting in the effort to keep you there. This isn't necessarily because she's a bad person, but because she's become comfortable. Your consistency has been mistaken for an emotional safety net, and in her mind, that net is always there to catch her, no matter how carelessly she treats you. This dynamic creates a negative feedback loop. The more you chase, the more you give, and the more you try to prove your worth, the more she takes for granted. Why? Because you're teaching her that your value is something she doesn't have to work for. You are showing her that her behavior, no matter how dismissive, won't change your effort. This is not how healthy relationships are built. A relationship is a two-way street, and if you are the only one paving it, you'll eventually find yourself standing alone. The real shift in power doesn't come from a dramatic confrontation. It comes from a quiet, internal decision to withdraw your energy. This isn't about being passive-aggressive or giving her the silent treatment as a form of punishment. It's about a fundamental change in your mindset. You are no longer willing to give so much of yourself to someone who gives so little in return. You are choosing to invest your time, energy, and emotions into the one person who truly deserves it, yourself. The power of silence and absence. When you decide to stop the chase, you initiate a profound psychological shift. Your silence becomes a powerful statement. For a woman who is used to constant attention and validation, your sudden absence is a shock to her system. It creates an uncomfortable void, a vacuum of unanswered texts and unreturned calls that forces her to confront the reality of the situation. Think of it this way: your consistent pursuit was a form of emotional gravity, keeping her in your orbit. When you stop, the gravity disappears, and she starts to drift. The quiet you've created isn't empty, it's filled with her own thoughts and questions. Why hasn't he called? Is he angry? Did I go too far? The silence forces her to sit with the consequences of her actions without the comfort of your presence. It makes her feel what it's like to live without the security and attention you once provided. This is not a game. This is about re-establishing your boundaries and reclaiming your self-worth. By stepping back, you are demonstrating that you are not a commodity to be taken off the shelf and used whenever she feels like it. You are a man of value, and your time and attention are not free. This is the moment when she is forced to reconsider what she's lost. She may start to remember the little things you did, the morning texts, the small gestures, the way you were always there. And realize that no one else fills that void quite like you did. The missing begins not with a dramatic declaration of love, but with the quiet, nagging feeling that something is gone, something she didn't appreciate until it was no longer hers. Rebuilding your life, reclaiming your power. The most effective way to respond to being taken for granted is not by getting angry or resentful, but by building a life that makes you happy, independent of her. This is where your true power lies. While she is left wondering and dealing with the emptiness of your absence, you are out there growing. Focus on yourself, reconnect with your passions and hobbies. Go to the gym, travel, learn a new skill, or spend more time with friends and family. This isn't just about distracting yourself, it's about becoming the man you always wanted to be. The man who is confident, purposeful, and fulfilled on his own. Embrace your independence. Your happiness should never be dependent on someone else's validation. By showing her that you can thrive without her, you are proving to yourself and to the world that your worth is internal. This confidence is what truly makes a man attractive. It shows that you are a whole person, not half of a couple, and that any woman who wants to be in your life needs to earn her place. Let your actions speak louder than words. As you grow and level up, your transformation will be visible. She will see your happiness on social media, hear about your adventures from mutual friends, and sense the shift in your energy if you ever cross paths again. This quiet success is a far more powerful message than any angry text or pleading phone call. It says, I am a man of high value, and I will not stay where I am not valued. This journey is about healing and empowerment. The goal is not to get her back, but to become a better, more confident version of yourself. If she comes back, it must be on your terms. She must show a fundamental change in her behavior and a genuine willingness to reciprocate. If she doesn't, you will have already built a life so full and meaningful that her absence is no longer a source of pain, but a sign of your growth. The humbling lesson of your absence. Your quiet confidence and peaceful detachment can be incredibly humbling for a woman who is used to being pursued. When she realizes that you are not coming back, not begging, and not chasing, she is forced to face a difficult truth: she lost you. It was not a game of chicken that she won. It was a test of your self-respect, and you passed. She may have had a moment of feeling powerful in the relationship, but in your absence, she is left with the uncomfortable reality of what she had and what she carelessly gave up. She may try to re-engage, but be careful. Don't fall for breadcrumbs of attention or empty promises. Let her show you through her actions, not her words, that she understands what she did. And if she doesn't, that's okay. The lesson was for you just as much as it was for her. You learn that your worth is not tied to someone else's validation. You learn to set a standard for how you expect to be treated and to walk away when that standard isn't met. The final piece of this is forgiveness, not for her, but for yourself. Forgive yourself for allowing the dynamic to go on for as long as it did. Use this experience as a foundation for future relationships. From now on, you will know the signs of being taken for granted and you will have the confidence to address them or to walk away. You have learned that the ultimate power lies not in controlling someone else, but in knowing your own value and acting in alignment with it.